It's time to leave your cinematic troubles behind. Let the takes flow through you. And let the noise from the zeitgeist subside. Welcome to Cast Against Time.
Welcome to Cast Against Type. I am Colin J. Dixon, and I am joined by the magic man himself, Matthew J. Frankelstein. Matthew Frank.
J.
What is your middle name, Matt?
What do you think my middle name is?
Timmy Tom.
But you said J.
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Jim Bob.
We're going to go with that.
Matthew Jimbo. What is it, really?
Steven.
Oh.
It's a very serial killer
That
name.
was anticlimactic. I was hoping it was going to be like Leroy or something. It's just...
But you said
Steven. Whatever. How you doing, Mr. Frank?
I am doing well.
Yeah.
It's a lovely Sunday. The sun is shining. Drinks are
true.
poured.
Drinks are poured. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Brewer West.
This is taking you're really just laboring.
I was looking, and then this cat is looking at me back from the can. It's an IPA. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a mule, and I'm going to be throwing back a lot of these in the course of this podcast. I have a feeling. But,
Why so?
Well, they're my jam. They're my go-to.
They are your go-to.
They're my staple drink. They're my staple drink.
What's the second staple drink?
That's a good question. I guess it would be something easily mixable. I mean, I'm a cocktail guy, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
The listener may not know. But, and we usually, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here, folks. This is the second of two podcast endeavors that Mr. Frank and I have undertaken in our careers, our vast and lucrative podcasting careers.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something a little bit different, and I'll go into that in a minute. But what's the rush? There's no rush here, Mr.
No,
Frank. Especially
I asked
because,
you your second cocktail, and then you just
yeah. Well, okay. So I derailed myself. I'm into the mixology. Oh, God, I just feel
you called yourself a mixologist.
No, I said into mixology. I didn't call myself a mixologist.
But what would be somebody who is into mixology called? A mixologist.
An enthusiast. No, you're a mixologist. If you have to train to be a mixologist, you
don't say I'm an enthusiast who's interested in mixology. You say
Sure
I'm a mixologist, and do you have suspenders in that?
I'm not labeling myself a mixologist. In fact, I felt dirty just saying the word. Anyway,
I should take that drink away from you after that.
You really should. It doesn't matter. You know what? There's another reason to be drinking, and it's not just because we're in a room together. It's also because today is a holiday as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what's going on?
Veterans Day?
What's that?
Veterans Day.
Oh, it is an actual holiday. No, that's not what I'm referring to. No, today is the celebrated reopening of
Vista.
We just fucking way to just bury it before it even gets a chance to breathe.
That's the game, right?
Yes, today is the reopening of the vaunted, much celebrated Vista Theater here in Los Angeles. As far as I'm concerned, it's a holy place. I mean, that's a fucking mecca. You know,
I have to give a shout out because this came up the other night. I actually got invited to go to the True Romance premiere.
Why didn't you?
Because I had plans, unfortunately.
Fuck your plans. This is more important.
Yeah, I am very excited to go
Holmes.
back.
You fucked up. QT himself was there. Not that
was he?
Matters. Yeah, he was there. For those who don't know, it's an LA institution. It's got this very kind of old school Egyptian theme to it. I mean, it's my favorite theater. I mean that in no jerking terms. It's one of the last few theaters I can think of where you literally just walk up to a box office and buy your ticket that way. You actually have to line up. There's no assigned seats, but which that's not what I love about it. What I love about it is just they nail it on every single level. I mean, first of all, it's cheap, which that's like the least important of things, but it's cheap. It's in Silver Lake, in a part of Silver Lake Junction, which I love, even though that part of town has changed so much. But it's really what's going on in the inside is so awesome. I mean, it's older than dirt. It's got this rich history. the owner of the place, which is what I was kind of alluding to when I brought up Tarantino. So he was there at the True Romance opening, and they did kind of a passing of the torch apparently, which I would have loved to see because that guy's awesome. He'd be in costume taking tickets. I'm not sure if that's the owner or the manager, but either way, both those guys are just awesome. Concessions are cheap and good. There's like a ton of legroom. There's like not a bad seat in the house somehow.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say that it's every seat you sit in is great, and it was great. Well, I didn't go. I wasn't able to go. We did drive by it, and it was great to see a line back there. It was great to see the lights back up, and it did feel like an event. It felt like it was back, and it felt like it in a weird way. It's been 3 years, but it feels like it hasn't been gone that long at the same time. But it was just nice to see a crowded scene there again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just I love to know that. I'm just so glad it's back. I've missed it. I've been looking for something to like jumpstart this. I don't know, like a return to the movies. I've been back to the movies since things were locked down 2 or 3 years ago, but it has never felt quite the same to me. I don't know how you feel about that.
It feels. I mean, before the pandemic, I loved the movies. I've loved the movies ever since I can remember.
We're still in it.
Sure.
We're still
yes,
in it.
True.
Bro.
But there is not an urgency within myself that there used to be to go to the theaters.
How about without yourself?
It has to be more of an event for me to go, or there has to be some interest there. But I do think something like the Vista coming back in is an incentive that hasn't been around, that is there, and it's an experience. I think it's something that you can't get at home, obviously, and it's just it brings you back to a time that you can't replicate or you can't get anywhere else.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to. I think like I've been looking for something to like jumpstart my heart.
Have you been? You've got a sad heart.
And I think that this will do it. I don't know. I'm just really glad it's back. So welcome back, Vista. Apparently they got booze in there now. Hopefully that doesn't change the dynamic too much, but I can't see how it would.
It's also great. It's like the what you've said about the Alamo, and I haven't been to the Alamo, but there's like a respect for film or the viewing there too.
That's really that's a huge part of it. Is like the people that go there are generally like don't need to be told to be on best behavior. And don't get me wrong, I've been there when there have been like shitheads like ruining the experience for everybody, but it's so rare because like it seems like people that go there, and this is all cheese dicky to say, but it's like it does feel like there's like a respect for the craft.
Yeah, you're not going out of your way to see Shazam 3 at the Vista. Not that they would show it, but like people.
Well, they might, but if they did, you get the sense that the people that are going are gonna give it. They're gonna give it their full attention. They're gonna be objective about what they're watching.
If you're going to Vista, you're going because you want to see that movie, and like your night is revolved around that.
Yeah, well, and you're also just way less likely to run into some dickhole that is gonna be blasting TikTok out of their phone while their movie's going on, or like playing fucking Angry Birds 2 in the middle of like the most important scene in the film.
Googling the subject of the movie while they're in the movie.
No, literally not an exaggerated.
Didn't that happen? Yeah, that happened to you, right?
The last bad movie theater experience I had was for Dead Reckoning, which is already that's a crime because to me those movies are kind of a high holiday as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I realize that's a silly thing to say about any franchise, but like that's like one of the last franchises I have faith in. As franchises go, that's one of the few that I still have the audacity to get excited about. So for that to be ruined by, and not just that, I mean, but that's just the fucking AMC experience.
For context, the person in the movie he was in was Googling Tom Cruise while watching a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah. Who did you think you're going to see?
Well, like, what detail was this person looking up that they didn't already know about Tom Cruise?
Well, was he, like, confused that, like, Corbin Burnson wasn't playing Ethan Hunt? I mean, I just don't understand, like, what... I thought the movie, it had its flaws. It's maybe, like, maybe, like, the 5th or 6th best Mission Impossible movie, which might sound like ill praise, but that's actually... I mean, that franchise is just filled with high-caliber stuff, so it's still pretty fucking good, but everything was captivating enough that it should have held the attention of most. Even the most mouth-breathery fucking members.
Sure, but my confusion is what you're in 7 of these deep, You know who Tom Cruise is. Everyone who knows who Tom Cruise is.
Yeah.
What are you Googling Tom Cruise to figure out about
I
in the middle of a Tom Cruise movie?
What did you?
Who is Tom Cruise?
What? Okay, so let's say that you discovered that he was in Cocktail back in the day. I mean, are you gonna fucking?
Oh, that's the guy from Cocktail. I
You're gonna
knew
queue it up?
him.
Yeah, I mean, what are you just gonna like load that shit up on your phone and let her rip?
But also, who? Let's say they've never seen a Mission Impossible before. Who's just gonna jump 6 Mission Impossibles and see the 7th one?
I mean, okay, look, that happens. Like, I haven't seen Fast and the Furious 2, 3, or 4, but I saw 5. You know, like, yeah, maybe I'm missing something, but whatever. I'm sure it's superficial enough. And
They're really deep rooted in their scripts.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there that I really need to go back.
You don't know the history of the family.
I know that they value family.
Yes.
But you know, speaking of franchises, Mr. Frank, I actually think that this is a good segue into the first segment of our show here. What show, Mr. Frank? What am I talking about? Well, this is Cast Against Type, our inaugural launch. And what is Cast Against Type? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. It's a show where we examine the pathology of the mob as it pertains to the world of film, where we look across the discourse as it applies to the world of cinema and attempt to restore some sanity in the wake of a world beset by hot takes and attention-seeking nonsense. We do this in 3 different ways. 1, by addressing cinematic conundrums submitted by you, the listener. 2, by unpacking the ideas and assertions we stumble across out there in the media, be it social or otherwise. And 3, by occasionally subjecting ourselves to mysterious media oddities. Now, I should give just a brief primer about what the show really is about, why we want to do it. So, and maybe this is just me. I have a sense that you're the same way. Maybe you respond slightly differently. But the word triggered gets thrown around a lot, especially in this hyper-political world that we live in, and justifiably a more sensitive world that we find ourselves living in. And I have to admit, I find myself getting triggered a lot.
You're triggered?
But I don't mean that in the way that I have some deep-rooted trauma that is getting unearthed by these things that I stumble across. But I guess what I'm trying to articulate is I find myself getting instigated by things that I see out there in the social media landscape, especially as it pertains to film. And I'm not, glued to social media, but I have a healthy appetite for it, I'd say. And it's just becoming more and more common that I'm running across just these strange ideas about movies, about art, about culture in general. And in those moments, you always think to yourself, God, I wish I could just give voice to what exactly is wrong with this right now. And in a way that doesn't involve getting into a flame war with somebody who doesn't really deserve your time or that gratifies the taking of the bait. I know a lot of other people out there have that same impulse. And I guess what I kind of want for the show to be, Mr. Frank, is a bit of a jointly therapeutic and educational experience for ourselves and the listener alike, so we can all be better ingesters of media and maybe just think a little bit more like somebody that hasn't been drowning in an environment of hot takes and attention grabbing since birth, for better or worse.
Yeah, and I think the idea in my head is to not tear down, but to reassess it.
And that's a fair point, Mr. Frank. And I think to that end, none of the sources that we reference will be made public. So we're never going to expose names, even though sometimes it's going to be painfully obvious who we're talking about, especially if you follow any kind of film Twitter shit or X
Twitter shit.
X Twitter shit. Yeah, I mean, but whatever. It's still fucking Twitter. Fuck you, Elon.
My God.
Sorry, I just flew into a rage. No, but I mean, you come across these ideas, and most of the time, and this is the kind of the elephant in the room of the show is if we're trying to dissect motivation, the show would be really quick because 90% of the time, the motivation for people saying anything that they do on social media, and it's not just X, it's almost always going to boil down to attention, to look at me. All of the socials, the tickings, the talkings.
They're ticking and talking for attention.
But it's also just media. We're going to we'll dive into what the press spews out there. And it just, we want to try and expose bad ideas. I mean, there are some good ideas that are also go unchampioned. And also the idea of the show is not to just pick on the little guy because frankly, there's so many there are so many people that are just spewing non sequitur bullshit about movies out there, and we're not just looking for Queefy Beans 6969 and like trying to like pick on like the 3-hearted comment that they got about The Flash or what. Who gives a shit, you know?
I applaud the name you pulled out of nowhere
Well,
of your Rolodex of fake Twitter names.
to which you might ask yourself, well, who the fuck are you to tell us about any of this? Well, if you're asking that question, you're already on the road to success. But just for context, so I've been working in film for about 17 years. I've been an editor for most of that time. I say film. I've been working in entertainment. Most of it's television. And Mr. Frank has been along for the ride with me for part of that journey, and we've both worked together in post-production for several years.
I've been in the filmic or entertainment atmosphere for a little, probably 10 to 12 years, give or take, in the post world. And yeah, I mean, this whole world's a big passion piece of both of ours, and as it is with a lot of people, but we have some experience in kind of doing these different things.
No,
and
Matt, I don't think you understand. This is the only film podcast that exists, and an only film podcast that ever will exist. You didn't know
we're the
that.
first.
We're the first, and we're pioneering.
Well, that's good to know.
And we're the first white guys to ever do it.
Oh,
And the first guys approaching middle age, and our voices probably carry more weight and more authority than
Perfect.
others. Yeah.
at
knew
least we're
that.
on the same page. With
Yeah,
that.
you knew that.
I didn't
Okay.
know you knew that.
Okay, and now our listeners know. Everybody's got shit takes, and if some guy that's got like 30 followers, that's not, we're not trying to punch down. So most of the things that we're going to reference are posters who have a wider audience or sources that are widely viewed. We're generally not going to be going after ideas that are Monday morning quarterbacking bullshit that everybody does and everybody's guilty of. But no, we want to examine the ideas that seem to have gained more traction than usual. That are capturing the news cycle or coming from a person or institution that either has a lot of support or that who, views themselves as an authority to some degree. And mostly we're going to do that just because it's kind of fun. But as we've said, we might also stumble across a point or two that needs to be exposed to the light of day. But well, let's see. I mean, honestly, there are fewer and fewer good ideas out there as civilization progresses. I say that in air quotes. So one of the 3 ways, as I just described, how we're going to do this is by taking our cues from you, the listeners, and by addressing the concerns, queries, conundrums that are submitted by you, the listener. But so I mean, speaking of franchises, as we were a moment ago, so I think that this first call kind of dives into that. So it's a good segue. Let's give it a listen.
Hey, Colin and Matt, this is Jamie from Albany. In your opinion, is Star Wars dead? Or does a franchise just need to lay low for a few years or maybe even decades? Or does there even need to be a franchise anymore? Let me know your thoughts.
Wow. Ooh. Well, first of all, Jamie, thank you for your call.
Yes.
However, you really just gave us a trunk to unload there for our first one. I mean, I guess it's good that we get this out of the way for the first episode because it's just the ultimate fanboy exercise, isn't it?
This is also interesting because you're much more attached to this subject than I am.
Well, I mean, I'm a product of the 80s.
No blame here, but I think you're much more endeared to Star Wars than I would be, and so my take is right off the bat probably way more objective than yours might be.
Oh wow! So you claim that I'm incapable of objectivity, and my heart will get in the way of my judgment.
I would bet that you're going to have more hesitation with cutting the cord than I will.
Well, you might be surprised. Well, first of all, I guess that's a good question. I mean, so our background with Star Wars, it does come to bear. I mean, and whatever you grow up with is always going to have a special place. And Star Wars is, or rather Return of the Jedi, I suppose I should say, is like the first movie I can remember. Like,
well, yeah, your experience. Well, listen, I'm not trying to age you, but like, I grew up with the Return.
Shame.
Return of the Jedi is a big one with me growing up, but it was like a VHS, and I would just watch that on VHS all the time. And there's a soft spot for those first 3 films, but like, to my admission, I have not, as the like the J.J. Abrams trilogy came on, I dwindled away from
Is that what we're calling that new experiment,
I don't know.
the JJ
I don't
trilogy?
know. What are the different trilogies called? So you got
I think you got the original trilogy, the prequels, and the sequels. I guess that's what we'll call them, just for the sake of ease.
the sequels came around, and I was just already over it. And I don't have the attachment. I have a nostalgia for it because I remember watching them as a little kid, the originals, but outside of that, there's no connection.
That's fine, but I guess what I'm just saying is just this subject comes preloaded with the weight of the baggage of so many opinions. I mean, it's just the most opinion-inducing franchise of all time. So in a way, I mean, I guess it's a good place to start. And I want to make it clear that it'll never be our intention for this show to be a fanboy show. I'm sure that both of us are hoping that at least 80% of our inane noodling doesn't revolve around franchise stuff. And hopefully we don't have to revisit the world of Star Wars all that much. Even though, listen, and you are right. The way that Marvel movies are candy for certain people, Star Wars is that for me. You know, like I reenacted the eye hook scene from Clockwork Orange, watching, you know, Obi-Wan, and just suffering through that shit and putting up with it, and the rewards are so much more infrequent than the punishment.
You didn't like all the Hayden Christensen?
I mean, where to fucking start with that guy? If ever there was a career that didn't die soon enough.
But he had what was that movie where he played the journalist that something Glass? It was
Glass House?
No, it wasn't Glass House. Oh fuck, what is that name?
Oh, Glass.
It's not just Glass.
No, it's Glass. It's he's got glass bones, and he.
No, that's the.
And his friend, he drowns his friend in a puddle.
I don't think
that wasn't him.
No.
Oh,
that's not him.
Oh, that was Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
Same. Also an alumni.
Very different.
How are they different?
Okay.
Okay, well, whatever. Side note. Bruce Willis drowns in a puddle in that movie.
Yes.
That really happened.
What's your question?
No, I just got to put it out there. It happened. That happened.
Yeah, it was very thin. It wasn't deep. It was what, a couple inches? Maybe
it was
an
a
inch?
puddle. A man drowned in a puddle. Okay, that's it. That's all I have on that. Anyway,
how many times did he? Do you think that was rewritten, or do you think that was the original idea?
No, I think
was the puddle.
I think M. Night was, at his.
He went to his wife and
he
was
like,
like,
he was at the fucking coffee house in Philadelphia where he gets all his extras from, and just fucking sitting there and going, "Oh, this is gold. They're just gonna eat this."
Puddle death.
He wrote a scene. You just know that he was like, this is really gonna get him. They're gonna be talking about this forever, and you know what, M. Night, we will be.
We're talking about it now.
Anyway, so. Yes, I will suffer through a lot where Star Wars is concerned, but it doesn't mean that I'm not incapable of being objective about that stuff. I mean,
okay.
So the question was,
it was threefold, right, or twofold?
So first of all, he asks if Star Wars is dead, and I would say no, it's very much alive, and I think that's an interesting question, Jamie. But what I would really ask, or maybe what I would rephrase is Disney's ability to wrangle and produce this material viable anymore? Because that is what I would argue is the real problem here.
Well, it's only viable as much as the audience wants it, and the audience still will want it.
That's the thing about Star Wars. Star Wars is one of the first properties that Disney abandoned when they even got the faintest whiff of potential pullout from the audiences, because the Skywalker's Day Out, or fucking what is the ninth one?
Well, I mean, I guess
Skywalker's Brigade, Rise of the fuck,
Skywalker's Choice,
Hobson Skywalker. I don't know.
Hobson Skywalker.
What the Rise of Skywalker? So,
yeah.
Even though that movie made money, and like Solo as well. Those two movies made money, but they didn't. But they weren't received warmly enough that the studios pulled out, and now we're in this cycle where every single property that they greenlight,
but you still
never
watch it.
comes to fruition.
But you still watch it.
No. Hang on. What I'm saying, we're addressing the question. What he's asking is Star Wars dead? And I'm saying, no, it's not dead, but
No.
but Disney's ability to handle it seems dubious. How many different projects have they released that not happened?
Star Wars.
Patty Jenkins was supposed to do one. The fucking Dragon Slayers were supposed to do one. Taika Waititi, who's drank enough of his own farts, was supposed to do one. Those have all fallen. Those have all crashed.
In my opinion, there's never going to be a point where Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is still going to go on.
Agreed.
Because there's always going to be a desire that it will turn a corner as of right now, and there's always a huge fan base that will watch whatever is put out. So it's not going to be dead. The more important question to me is one that he asked of, should it be dead?
Right. So I guess that's the second question is that he put to us is, does it need to lay low for a few years? And that's an interesting question. Again, I don't know if it needs to. I think what needs to happen is more interesting storytellers need to make that stuff. Now, one of my very favorite podcasts on the planet, which is Better Show Than This, the host of that show would disagree with me. He would say that this stuff is like, there needs to be more of this stuff, and it just needs to be sussed out in the marketplace of making movies, and there can never be enough. And as much as I love those guys, I mean, that's like one area where I take exception. That's one area where my fandom doesn't prevail because, look, the best thing Star Wars has done in recent years, and this is, you can have your own feelings, but I think it's hard to deny that, like, from a craftsmanship level, that Andor isn't the best thing that they've produced in a long time. And I'm not saying that everything needs to look like that. Star Wars can't be cold and bureaucratic in every instance. Some of it has to be for kids. But I do think, like, you need more unique voices doing that, or doing some version of that, or taking wild swings like that. And that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. You got this Dave Filoni soup of these, like, cutesy characters that are callback and, kind of worked for one season of that show, The Mandalorian, but part of my incredulity as it pertains to Disney probably boils down to Dave Filoni. He was recently named as the chief creative for the Lucasfilm division of Disney, and not unlike James Gunn at DC. And it's not really because he doesn't have a vision or because I think his output isn't that good, which, if we're being honest, it really is hit or miss. But it's mainly because the cutification of Star Wars and, like, the bending of its arcs towards, I don't know, fan service is spilling directly out of the properties that he's involved with. I don't think you have episodes of The Mandalorian where Jack Black and Lizzo are awkwardly flitting around set while Baby Yoda does bad puppetry gymnastics. I know it's not his name. In any given episode without Dave Filoni. But, maybe I've digressed. It's almost like George Lucas is writing again. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard the story about, like, they're making this video game and they needed to, like, create a Sith character. This is a well-known story, but not everyone will know it. And they were kind of doing, like, this round table discussion, like, okay, well, we have this Sith character, and it's kind of a, this is between, like, the prequels and the original film, so it's got to be, it's an important character. It's a Sith character. George, you're the brain trust here. What do you want to call him? And without missing a beat, he throws this out of the table. So why don't we call it Darth Icky?
Darth Icky?
Darth Icky.
Did they greenlight it immediately?
No. Some brave soul in the room was like, no, George. And I think this is like after his star had faded a little bit, all the prequels had been out and, like, people saw the writing on the wall for old George. And so that's what I mean. It's like you're starting to see, like, these. It's starting to feel like that guy is writing this shit again.
Well, and I think that's my point with this question is the basis of saying, does it need a couple decades off or does it need a break, is that it's like a muscle that needs to be rested, and then when it's back, it'll be good again. But that's not, to me, that's not the problem. The problem, like you said, is
there's no reason to assume that whoever picks up the slack in 10 years isn't gonna. It could be the same derivative stuff.
So there needs to be a reassessment of what the projects are and who is given the projects. It's not a we need to take a break. It's we need to be more diligent in finding who is the helmer of these things.
If enough of this stuff is a failure, then they might just abandon it altogether. And like, I don't
They
know.
won't. There's too much money there. They're never going to abandon it.
Yeah, but how much money do you have to lose before they say, you know what, we've made our money?
Well, they'll just keep raising the Disneyland prices.
All right, that's neither here nor there. So the third angle on his question was, does this even need to be a franchise anymore? And no, does it need to? No, nothing needs to be. But I do think this is the thing that's, to me, and I think you might disagree with this because this might be where our opinions
This
diverge.
is a hard no for me. I'm just going to say it.
Okay, well, see, here's where I would disagree. I think that the thing that Star Wars is best at, or was best at, was world building. It created this sci-fi vision, and it created enough rules that you can really run with that material for a long time. The thing is, we haven't seen them do the experiment where they step away from all the familiar stuff we know about Star Wars.
And that's I guess that's the point I'm going to bring is the world building is great, but the world building still exists within this Rebel and Empire storyline. What is there outside of that?
Well, but that's okay. Maybe nothing, but no one's tried, and that's my point. So when he says, "Does this need to be a franchise anymore?" Does it need to? No. But can it? And can it still be good? It could, yeah, because I think there's enough room there. But I think, to your point, the thing that's getting tired is seeing these same old characters, these same tropes that get battered around. Look, feel however you want to about The Last Jedi. I mean, that's like the most polarizing movie of all fucking time for some reason. It doesn't need to be. It's pretty plain what's going on there. There's some really good ideas mixed in some really bad ones, and it makes like for an interesting but flawed movie. There's no need to get up on your soapbox about it. But one of the things that is doing well is playing around with the rules, and that's a Rian Johnson thing. I think that he is another guy who's maybe drunk a little bit too much of his own Kool-Aid. But whatever, I appreciate seeing him play with the fucking rules, and that's the thing that he does in all his movies, and he feels carte blanche to do that with every genre that he partakes in. That's another conversation for a different time. But we need more people playing with the format, and if that's not going to happen, then yeah, to me the franchise needs to die.
Well, and I agree, but with something that's so polarizing or something that's such on a pedestal as Star Wars is, when you do play with any rules, you are ostracized.
But you can do both. You can pander and do new shit.
But the only example of that was Last Jedi or these recent three
and
movies.
Andor.
And look,
yeah,
Andor, yes, but Andor's not really breaking rules. It's just executing it better.
Well, I'd say it's breaking the rule that for instance, it's before that one, maybe before the Rogue One. Wow, there's some harmony in that. Rogue One. I think that you could have easily said like a hard and fast rule in the Star Wars universe is like the rebel might be good guys. This is like kind of breaking that rule. So I just think that that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
So the biggest trope that they've had in the last like 50 years is that there's an anti-hero. They did that with Anakin though. The goal with Anakin was that you wanted to root for him. They just executed that wrong because they hired the worst actor possible for that role.
I guess the way that I would also say that Andor breaks the scare quotes rules is that it acknowledges like this banality and bureaucracy that like the rest of Star Wars pretends isn't real. Like Andor pretends that middle managers exist, which they do, and like it like has the gumption to be like, what is it like if like the guy in the middle of the fucking corporate food chain has to make decisions? And it does that really well. And that's anyway. And again, you can have them both exist side by side. So does this need to be a franchise anymore? I would say no, only if but only if it's only going to keep doing the familiar. If it can break away from the familiar, I think there's no reason that this couldn't be a healthy, viable franchise for the future. But
my last question is, can it be a franchise without having connectivity? Can
yeah,
you
of
can
course.
you tell anthology stories that aren't tied together?
Sure, of course, because they've done it. But they've just done it in different formats. They've done it in the books. They've done it in video games. You know, people have been dying for Guardians of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, so like that's people have been dying for that to be like its own like HBO type series. You know, and there's really no connection to that world and the rest of it other than like, you know, Star lightsaber, and that's I think that's really refreshing for a lot of people, and so yeah, I think you can get away from the source material and still have it. It can still be Star Wars. It exists in the Star Wars universe. It just gets away from everything that you know and love, and if people can still get behind it because people are capable of using those tools to tell good stories, then yeah, it's still potentially viable. But I mean, I guess. Let's just do gun to your head on those three questions. Okay. Is Star Wars dead?
Yes.
I say no. Does the franchise just need to lay low for a few years?
If it's not dead, then no.
Just yes or no?
No.
Okay. I'd say no. I agree with you on that. And then the final question, does it even need to be a franchise at all?
No.
I guess I'd say no. You already heard our caveats. But in another sense, I also really eat up a lot of this stuff, and I don't want to see it come to that. See, I surprised you there, didn't I, Matt?
You did.
All right.
But it hurt you.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts a little bit. But I'm not, you know, I'm also a grown-ass man who can get on with my life. Read a book. Let's dive into the second of the three ways that we are going to unpack the current climate in the Cineverse.
Cinnamaverse?
Cinnamonverse. Woo. Coming up the stage is Cinnamon. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, the second of those two ways is we're going to unpack the ideas we stumble across when we're just out there perusing the media, whether it's social media or otherwise. So today we have a doozy of an idea that we stumbled across, and we're not going to name our source here, as we already described. But this one comes in the form of a podcast, and it's a clip that this podcast posted on social media, and it's an idea that one of these three hosts has, and I just want to drop it in front of us here, and let's just try and unpack what's going on here. So I'm going to play it.
Television shows do it previously on, but for some reason, movies are above that. Recently, watched Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Creed 3, Scream 6. I just watched John Wick 4, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Magic Mike's Last Dance. In all of those situations, I was like, what happened last time? Like, that is beneath a film to actually but why? Why? It's a courtesy to the audience.
We need it.
Television shows do. Like, the fact that Succession is not above telling you what previously on, you know? And I'm sorry, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, you are no Succession. But I feel like at this point with movie sequelitis, I have too many franchises in my head. I'm excited to go into Creed 3. I'm excited to start John Wick 4. I'm excited for all these movies. But when I sit down, I'm like, wow, they're really expecting me to have recently caught up, or really know where we left the story off.
Oh boy. Woo!
I have so many places to start.
Woo! 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 Why don't you dive into this first, Mr. Frank? Because I need to pour a drink.
I have a lot of questions about the approach to viewing of this person. If you're very excited about seeing a third sequel or a sixth sequel, why are you excited if you can't remember anything in the previous 6 or 2 movies?
Matt, you just hit on a question that I was going to ask, but in shouting fashion. So I'm glad that you did that first.
Like with TV, I get it. Like it's a weekly thing. There's a lot going on. It's more accepted. It's kind of commonplace for that. But when you're going to a movie, let's say you're watching it in the theater, because I know you can stream it, you can see it in a bunch of different ways. If you're choosing to go to a theater to see a sequel, you have predetermined you are going to see this. You probably know something about it, or you probably remember something about it, and that's the reason you're going. I've never once blindly gone to a sequel of something, not either caught up or known what I'm going into, and then complained about the fact that I didn't know what was happening in that sequel. What is this? This person is just blatantly going into a movie blind and then complaining that they're going into it blind?
Man, I wanna thank you for your sincerity there in trying to answer that question. I do think it's noble. Frankly, just listening to the clip, the question answers itself. Okay, first of all, Shazam, you're not Succession. Of course, it's not.
It's not.
My question is, if the world of
You're
Shazam,
so flustered by this.
if the rich, deep, cinematic world of
The
Shazam,
Shazamiverse.
if the Shazamiverse hasn't pulled you in deep enough,
Why are you seeing the third one?
why go?
Yeah, or the second one, whatever.
If you don't have enough passion for this franchise, whatever it be, to muster up the energy to ever have revisited previous films more than once, you're probably not a big enough fan of this world, and you shouldn't waste your time
It's
with
also just a lazy, like, passive experience or approach to take. So you're saying if you show up and they don't have a previously on, you're just going to casually be perusing on your phone while you sit in here because you don't know the full information? Like,
Now, that's
energy.
perfectly fine, by the way. You can go to John Wick 4, never having seen John Wick 1, but if you're going to go and then be like, well, I needed a primer.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
That's entitlement. And okay, so here's the thing. You know, what this segment exists to expose the thinking behind the things that we capture out there in the world. And again, we're not going to go into motivation, because for all I know, he's being glib here, or maybe he's just having a laugh. But I get the sense that there's a sincerity behind
there's
this.
also,
So
I think what I'm thinking about now is the kind of what we talked about earlier, is the shift of feeling around seeing a movie or experiencing a movie. And I think there's been a shift in how people view movies. And I think that is definitely shifted into, even if you go to the physical theater, you're taking these habits and these behaviors of when you are watching at home to a theater.
Yes.
There's no separation of what that experience at a theater is differentiated from your living room.
yeah, I do
anymore.
think a lot of people are dragging their living room habits into the theater. And, you know, when you cozy up to Emily Does Paris, or,
Emily Dunn Paris
yeah, or the Sexification Diaries, or,
of the Traveling Pants.
yeah, or the Euphoria of the Wildebeests, or whatever the shows are. Yeah, you're gonna get a recap, because you're going to, by the end of that, have 30 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna have. Look, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm guessing John Wick's not gonna make it to 30 films. I could be wrong.
Well,
But again, those things take years to develop.
Well,
And you've had nothing but time, especially if you're a fan, to catch up. Now, again, by the way, if these guys are just having a laugh, and if they're just like throwing out a fun little hypothetical, we're doing a podcast, we need great content. Okay, fine, whatever, I get it. But I get the sense that there's sincerity behind what these guys are saying. And I think that there are people that share this idea.
Can I ask you this, though? Is there a genre? And I have one in mind, and you probably are going to
Okay.
hit it. Is there a genre of movie where this would be acceptable?
I don't think so. I mean,
Comic book movies?
no, because you shouldn't go to the sequels of something that you don't have an appreciation for.
Sure, but on the flip side, the whole Marvel universe is kind of going head in to connecting these movies so much.
Okay,
And
but here's the thing. A movie is different than a TV show. And I'm not going to suggest that TV doesn't have high production values, that there aren't extremely large crews for some of your, especially more prestige shows. I imagine that there are probably more people in the credits for Game of Thrones than there is in your typical A24 movie, for example. So I'm not going to say that the game hasn't changed a little bit and that TV is not more cinematic anymore. But by the by, these are massive projects that take a lot. And I'm not just talking about franchise stuff. I'm talking about even your little indie film. From your smallest, most austere indie darling to your most grandiose, bloated franchise film. They all take a lot of logistics, coordination, planning, and hopefully, not always, writing and creative pre-production and hopefully, and I'm not saying that TV doesn't, but it is still on scale a little bit different for a movie. And the thing is, movies, unlike TV, still have a quality about them that makes them slightly less disposable.
Yeah, the previously on, and it doesn't. It's maybe it's a stereotypical feeling that you have, but my first reaction was, previously on in a film would diminish it.
Yeah, I think you're right because if anything, the previously on should be, oh, the new Spider-Man's coming out. Well, I like this franchise, so I'm going to go rewatch it. Or I don't remember what happened in the last one. Well, this is a great time to bone on up.
First off, I completely agree. I was playing devil's advocate with my previous question, but I do think that there's also a plus side of, to your point, the quality of TV has risen, and that's not to diminish anything that they do with these shows because they're awesome and we all watch them. But there is a separate tier with film, and if anything, if the 15th Spider-Man comes out and you want to watch the previous 14, it allows an avenue to revisit the separate pieces of art in their own way.
If this is a franchise you like, now you get to rediscover it all over again.
It kind of pays forward this world of film.
It's like falling in love
with
again,
Spider-Man 14
and again,
and 13
and again, and you get to blast back into the multiverse, and that's precious. Who doesn't love multiverses? That's a subject for another time. And so he says, Shazam 2, you're no Succession, which is like, that's one of the biggest no shit Sherlocks a person could conjure. But then in the same breath, he asserts his admiration and excitement for this shit. It doesn't sound like you're that excited.
Well, my question too with this, my other question is, who's this for? Who's this geared towards? Who does he think is going to be convinced of this? Is this a generational thing? Is this an attention span thing? Like what?
I think it's for him personally. I don't think he's considering his audience. In fact, I'd say he's being selfish.
Who actually watches the previously on stuff? They have the skip now button. Who actually watches the previously now?
I mean, look, if it's a show, you don't revisit TV as much as you do film, and most people, and look, if it's your favorite show, then yeah, maybe you've watched it 30 times. But if it's some random one-off or a series that you could take or leave, if you're watching The Idol, you're probably not gonna have a lot of repeat viewings under your belt. And let's say, and I can't think of why you would need a break from that show, but
watch all 4 episodes over and over again.
Let's say you needed a break in the middle. Maybe you revisit it 2 months later, 2 years later. Fine, I'm happy to have a little recap in there. And you also.
But if you're watching it 2 years later, why wouldn't you watch the whole 4 episodes?
Well, okay, but here's the other thing: a season of TV tends to be around 8 to 10 episodes if it's prestige. And if it's network stuff, it can be even longer. I think the recaps are almost more valuable between seasons, frankly.
Yes. But also it's a stereotypical thing of like, they've been doing that for years. The previously on is a staple with, it's a staple with TV.
That's a fair point. Don't you think you would feel like your franchise, your beloved franchise, has been cheapened in some way? As you said earlier, even if you're a Marvel defender, wouldn't it be a little self-defeating of a movie for an audience to have to see that? Like,
it diminishes the previous work. Yeah.
I think you hit on the head earlier. It's rewarding this lazy tendency that we have. It's bringing your living room into the theater. Mm-hmm. And I've had enough of that shit. You go to the theater to have a collective experience. You go to the theater to see something in a way that you can't see it at home.
At that point, what's like the next step is what when you want to peruse through your phone, you can just whip it out whenever, or you can pause the viewing to fuck off and talk to each other.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if these. And by the way, this comes from a show, and I'm not going to name. We're not naming names here on this show, but this comes from a podcast I used to listen to, and eventually I had to stop. Because there were just too many little cutesy thought experiments like that. Like, what if the movies had a remote control? And it's like, look, innovation is fun. Should we have a talkie? But do you remember a few years ago when AMC pulled this fucking crap where they're gonna like, oh, we're gonna have like a designated you could talk to people screening. Do you remember that shit?
No.
Oh yeah, they did this shit where they're like we're gonna have phones and phones and conversations are welcome.
The antithesis of movie viewing.
Okay, fine. So, look, we live in LA. A really popular thing to do is like the Hollywood Cemetery film viewing, which is basically a big picnic. They project the theater on the side of the mausoleum. Mausoleum. The Blantons is really starting to kick in now, folks. So look, there you can have kind of a rambunctious, like, isn't this a fun?
But it's in the know, it's in the setting, it's well known with the participants what this is. For a place like a theater that's supposed to be a vacuum and it's supposed to be a very intimate experience and a quiet experience while you're immersing yourself in this, for them to just be like, well, we're going to pivot to the complete opposite, is a slap in the face to what the experience is supposed to be.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the communal qualities of being in a theater audience can fucking rock, and if every time you went to the movies it was like a scene out of Cinema Paradiso, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But what we're talking about and what this guy's suggesting, insofar as he's not being a bullshitter, is curtailing the theater experience to your laziness. To which I'd say just stay home. You're not wanted. I think we can wrap this one up. Here's one thing I will say. So we're never going to try to peg motivation, because as we explained, 90% of the time the motivation is, look at me. But maybe we can glean some lessons from some of these takes that we're hoping will ultimately asphyxiate. The lesson I would want people to take away after seeing something like this is what this person says making any sense? And it really isn't any more complicated than that. If you hear somebody make a big, bold claim about the movies, the lesson I would take is maybe please just consider the ramifications of what a person is saying.
Well, and I think to your point, my takeaway is this take for the greater good of all movie-going experiences. And it's not. It's a very subjective, don't we all want this? And it's like, no, we don't. It's
That's a great point, Matt, because that you asked about who was this for earlier, and I said it's for him. And this is so tailor-made for this guy precisely because this is a person, that's a very, I don't know how successful it is. It's relatively much more successful than this. This is coming from a successful podcast. Going to screenings are these guys' bread and butter. Maybe they've got to see anywhere between 100 and 300 screenings a year. Yeah, for this guy whose job it is, sure, it'd be great if you had a previously on before each movie, because you don't have a choice if you go and watch John Wick 4. You claim in this video that you're excited, but let's face it, buddy, we know you're not excited to see fucking Shazam. We know, and that's okay.
But to take your personal grievances or issues or experience with this and be like, don't we all feel this way? And it's like, no,
disingenuous.
we don't. Yeah. It's not for everyone. It's for you.
In situations like this, it also helps to consider how presumptive the thing the person is proposing is, because in this situation, instead of asking, do we need a recap before this franchise film, the question should be, if I need a recap, should I be seeing this film in the first place? And you have a choice in where you spend your dollar. And maybe if more of us thought in those latter terms, we wouldn't be crushing under the weight of franchise churn in the first place. But you guys be the judge. If you guys feel differently, let us know.
Give me the money, you motherfucker! Give me back my son! Son! Give me back my son! My son! Son! Give me back my son! Son! My son! Son! Give me back my son! Give me the money! My son! Son! Give me back my son! My son! Son! Give me back my son! Son! My son! Money! Give me back my son! Give me the money! Give me back! 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 Give me back my son! Give me back my son! My son! Son! Give me the money! Give me back!
I'm stuck in X. Help! I'm stuck in X and I can't get out. No, Elon, no. Oh, what's that? I see a vehicle. Is it? Oh, it's a Cybertruck. No, I can't get up here. No, can't reach us. We're standing on a 3% grade after all. The hell were we thinking? All right. I hope you enjoyed that. Okay. Well, so as I alluded to earlier, the last of the three ways that we're gonna explore the Cineverse is by occasionally exposing ourselves,
No.
occasionally subjecting ourselves to some random media oddities, and these aren't always going to be film related.
Just anything we come
We're
across.
just diving. This is just kind of a hey. We're
Everything is art. It's okay.
gonna let our hair down and just delve into the world of entertainment, pop culture, and just see what we can unearth from it.
Now, I haven't seen this one.
Well,
don't know
yeah.
what this
So
is.
this one's for me, and this is a fancy little thing. And actually, I'll be honest, I don't really know if it's worth our time, but
I mean, I'll be the judge of that.
you certainly will. I don't want to date this episode, but the festive holiday times are upon us, and this is an advertisement of sorts,
Oh, no.
an announcement, I suppose.
No.
Matt, have you seen this already?
No, but
right,
I can already guess what it is.
Well, I let's just dive in, and we're gonna have to describe what's going on. So here we go. What do we look? So we're paused on the first shot. What are we looking at here?
Mr. Freeze's lair with a timestamp.
Yeah, well, it's like a bank vault that's frozen in ice, and above
And there's like snow inside, but it's clearly inside, so I don't know how there's snow happening.
It does look like Mr. Freeze's lair. There's a bank vault, and above it there's what I thought was a date, but maybe it's a clock.
It looks like a clock, and it looks like it's about to strike midnight to November 1st.
Okay, yeah, because it says October 31st, 11:59. So yeah, okay. So I'm guessing it's the last minute of Halloween here. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's see where it goes. So, okay, we're zooming into the vault door.
Who opened it?
It's opening up. There's a woman inside. She's in a block of ice.
Oh no!
Oh my God! It's
Oh
Mariah.
my God! That effect was awful.
Oh, it's Mariah. Oh no!
Where'd the ghouls go?
Now it's Christmas.
She's not singing.
Well, there's a lot of Christmas creeps.
Is this an Old Navy ad? It looks like an Old Navy ad.
It's
Please don't tell me it's just
time.
her. Like, so this is her. Okay, let's deep dive.
okay.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Okay. What's going on?
So much like I'm guessing, what is it? 104.3. Once Halloween ends, they play Christmas music until the New Year. So I'm guessing this is this is Mariah deep diving into her dominance.
Matt, I think maybe for one of the first times in your life, you just nailed it right away.
She's kneeling into her dominance with this song, and the recurrence of people just loving the song, and the second Halloween is over.
Well, okay, we can talk about what
her-
this all means in a second, but let's go into
Yeah,
it.
I mean, the
so we
important part is
open
where did this pumpkin head
we
guy
open
go?
on this frozen vault. It opens. Okay, we're zooming into the vault, and we land
pause
on
here.
these creepy crawlies, these ghoulies. We got a Jason in there. We got
Skeletor.
We got a Scream Mask guy. Maybe a Skeletor. or a
pumpkin
Guy
head.
Fox. Yeah, there's a pumpkin head, and what are they doing? They're
using
defrosting.
They're using hair dryers to defrost her. Where's the cord?
Okay, so they're
What's this bank vault for? Just her? Was the bank vault just for her?
No. Okay, so they're unfreezing. She's undergoing the unfreezing process.
Are these her henchmen?
So that's really the bigger existential question here: is why would these ghoulies do this? Because
like
it's
who
Halloween.
sent them? Did she send them back on November 1st to come? Like, hey, November 1st, come back and defrost me.
Maybe she's got a deal with these creepies. Okay, so but
Why?
they're unfrozen her.
There's no melting happening. They give one shot and it's the same shot
Are you
of her in the cube.
insinuating that they didn't actually freeze Mariah Carey for this?
No, I'm insinuating that they're not melting her. There's no progress being made.
Well,
How is she singing when she's frozen?
Mariah just sing shattered her way out of the ice.
So they defrosted it enough for her to then sing the note and then
See,
break the rest of the
to
cube.
me, this diminishes Mariah's
Their work.
Well, diminishes Mariah's power as a diva, because if she doesn't have the heft, I mean, how much help did she need? How powerful is her voice if she can't just shatter ice without the help of Blow
She's
Dry?
older now. In her years, she would have been able to shatter that ice in one note, but now she can't. She needs the help of the ghouls to defrost the cube.
There's a lot of subtext here. All right,
Where'd they go? They disappeared.
Yeah, well,
Were they blasted away to safety because of the
She
vocal?
shatters her way out of the ice,
And she blows them away to safety.
I guess.
Like a
well, she
bomb.
said it's time. That wasn't a call to action. That was a warning. It's time to die. Okay.
So they helped her, and then she murdered them.
So now she's
Yeah, pause here.
now she's in a
Old Navy commercial.
We're absolutely an Old Navy commercial. A bunch of creeps. There's all these.
Are we to believe that these were the ghouls, but they've been turned into Christmas form?
Well, that's a existential nightmare. I don't have the bandwidth to address. But if that's true, then they've multiplied as well. There's children now. We're in a festive Xmas. What is the name of the song? How does the song? How it goes
All
song?
I want for Christmas is you.
So okay, now they're just dancing like a bunch of jerks.
No one's singing the words.
John Waters in the back, or somebody that looks just like him. I feel like this is a remix of the song as well.
She does a new one every year. I
Why?
think.
Why?
Because,
What was wrong with
because
the
money? Because I want money.
Can't she do another Christmas bop?
Can't she just go away?
Well, no. Well, clearly, she's asserting her.
Somebody froze her, and then the ghouls found her.
You know what's depressing is that this is the last Christmas song. We'll get into that. So she's. I mean, it's just a bunch of jerks.
And then
dancing
there's
around.
a title that says,
And now it says
"It's
it's time.
time."
So okay. Here's the first
is
thing
it
I want to
time
address.
for?
I'm offended that we have just blown past November as a month.
I mean,
As a collective society.
I don't care about that.
I do.
I don't care about
November.
Thanksgiving.
Time exists for a
Well,
reason.
Sure, but
We're not
November sucks.
We're not at the apex of the year yet. Why does November suck? Whoa,
What's-
huge
what's
slam on
good-
November
what's
from
good
left field.
about November?
That is not December.
December's great
Why is December better than November?
because it's more wintry and Christmassy.
What?
Listen, I don't condone the ghouls or them defrosting her to unleash her to the
ghouls
world.
are the only thing I do condone. They're the.
What, you want them to release her to the world again?
My assumption is that they're defrosting her for nefarious purposes.
Wow, you got really dark.
Well, I'm sorry. Did you like what happened when she burst free of her prison?
No, but I don't think that there was going to be something more dark than that.
I think what we're really
what do
witnessing.
you think they were going to do?
I don't care. Evil deeds. They're ghouls.
The Old Navy people saved her then?
Do you think that Jason's just going to give her a little, give
a little smooch?
Give her a scarf?
So the Old Navy people came in when the blast happened and kicked these ghouls away?
I think what we're seeing, and this is almost a teaser for like a cinematic Mariah universe. So
I'm surprised there hasn't been a Mariah Carey movie.
There
Christmas
has been.
movie. Oh, was it fucking
Glitter.
Glow? Glitter.
Oh, and that's a special film.
Oh, you've seen it?
I've seen pieces of it. There's
You've
a
seen
scene.
the whole thing, don't lie.
No, I haven't. Well, I probably have.
When have you seen pieces of it?
Well, I'm a child of the. I'm a.
You were not a child when that came out.
Well, no, I am the prototypical.
That movie was not
and
in your teens. Get the fuck out of here.
HBO run on repeat. Yeah, it
You
was.
definitely watched that as an adult.
No. That was.
Look it
like-
up. Look up Glitter right now.
Why?
It's
I don't wanna
2003.
I don't want to
at
end
the
up on a FBI list.
at the very least, it's 2003. You definitely watched this as a teen.
Glitter. Okay, I was 18 when it came out. Yeah.
What's the year?
2001.
Oh, I was 2 years off. Yeah,
Well,
you
okay, whatever.
you were a teen when you watched Glitter. You
Fine.
chose to watch Glitter.
But I don't think I would have because I've never been a Mariah Carey fan. I've seen pieces of Glitter.
You've seen the whole Glitter movie.
And there's a piece of Glitter. There is a scene in Glitter where, and I could be remembering this wrong.
But you totally know
But
what
it's
you're
like-
talking about.
it's
You
like
are
a-
faking this.
I'm
You know.
absolutely
You're
not.
one of the ghouls. You defrosted her.
For nefarious reasons. Look, there's a scene in Glitter. This is really literally all I remember about the movie. There's a scene where they're like in a recording studio and there's like a tracking shot.
Sure.
And like it's like one of her studio sessions, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And they're listening back to like one of her songs and like it's just her and another guy. And I swear, and this could just be my memory, but like in my mind, it's a scene that goes on for 5 minutes or maybe more.
Because he loved it
It's
so
a
much.
tracking shot. It's slowly pulling in on Mariah and her male friend, and they're just
Nick
like
Cannon?
they're just bopping their head along to the beat.
Were you
And they're
bopping
just-
your head?
Absolutely. They're just sitting there and vibing for 5 minutes. It's just so. I mean, here's how I read the Mariah media that we just ingested. It's her cinematic universe. She's locked in the battle for good and evil. The ghoulies represent the darkness of all mankind.
The old
And
Navy folk bring the happiness.
They are, as I've already established,
deals.
they're melting the ice. I don't know why she's trapped in the ice.
Which side do you relate to more?
The ghouls.
You said that so quickly.
Because I'm assuming they're defrosting her for nefarious purposes. We've already established this. She shatters herself to life, and the ghouls, unfortunately, to death.
perish.
And then because this is just a teaser, we miss all the Mishigas in between, but what we were left with was the celebration.
So how does this make you feel after watching?
It makes me upset because, again, I think
It doesn't get you in the spirit of the holidays?
I think it abrogates. I think that it ignores the existence of an entire month. We have Turkey Day still yet upon us. It's not time for Xmas yet. The Rockefeller.
So if this happened at midnight after Thanksgiving, you'd be more happy. You'd be more accepting of this.
Sure, but I think maybe, I bet they don't do that. Well, first of all, she gets to be in selling Christmas singles mode for an extra month. But also, because that teaser would have had to have had native people and pilgrims
defrosting her,
and that would have been a bad look. That's my real guess. Actually, we don't know. There might be a November 30th version of this. We don't know.
How many cuts of this did you think they had?
I think. Well, okay, and
do you think Mariah had final take?
I think she may have edited it. Frankly,
no, I mean it does look awful.
But there's only one cut in it. Actually, no, there's like 2 or 3 cuts. Look, you work. We're not going to give too many deets on your personal life, but you work for a company that is that deals with a lot of celebrity and has a lot of high profile clients. And
she had like 10 take. There was 10 versions.
How many notes do you think the VFX people and the editor got?
There was literally probably at least
how many rounds of notes and how many notes per round?
Well, it's not even that. It's layers. There was probably 5 layers of execs that saw that before she saw it, and then she gave notes.
Although she's the ultimate exec, so I wouldn't be surprised if she
But between that, each previous exec is going through it 3 times trying to get it perfect to the person above them to like it.
How many cooks do you think were
I would
in this
say
kitchen? How many do you think people totally involved in the production?
What would you over under 7 people? I would say over.
You mean producing?
I would say having influence on it.
Yeah,
giving notes on it. Over 7 people.
2 shots, 4 cuts,
and the effect shot is pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's just a stop. They found that on Pod 5 and just put it over there and didn't.
And
blend
it cost $6 million. How much do you think the budget was?
Well, it all went to her.
Yeah,
the ghouls didn't make anything on this.
Well,
they probably didn't even get a credit. It's probably non-union. They probably didn't get.
It's absolutely non-union.
Yeah,
we don't even. That's not even.
You think they shot this during the strikes?
I wouldn't even be surprised if those extras that were dancing around like creeps didn't get paid at all. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if she put on her Instagram or win a chance to do a thing with Mariah, and they just got free.
You think she talked to them on set?
Absolutely not. In fact, I think that she probably said don't. There's probably a "Don't look me in the eyes" clause for sure. Wow. Well, it's an odd choice to open up in our inaugural episode, and it's certainly an odd way to end it, but it's fitting in a way. And again, I do think that it's really a movie about existential dread.
What's the lesson you took away from this?
That everything that you enjoy will be ruined by Mariah Carey.
It's a good lesson.
And that the end is nigh.
Appreciate November.
And that you should appreciate November and not just gloss right over it. That's what I take.
You hear that? You hear that? Everyone appreciate November.
Appreciate November, goddammit. All right,
don't month shame it.
Yeah, just because when you wander into Ross Dress for Less, they've already started playing Paul McCartney's "Christmas is a Wonderful
song.
Time." No,
we've had this discussion. It's a good song. Okay, Last Christmas or Paul McCartney, "It's a Wonderful Time" song.
Last Christmas.
Yeah, George Michael one.
Oh, absolutely, George Michael. Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, it's a good one too. That's a bad example. I like that song too.
Over Wonderful Christmas Time.
The Wings thing is a fucking nightmare. Or is it Wings or is it just McCart?
I think it's Wings. No, it's part of a Wings album. Yeah.
Oof.
I would hate to blame a full band. I think it might have just been him.
It's like full Wings album and then one Christmas song.
I wish I had wings. And then as I get to the apex of my flight, no longer have them.
We have derailed this.
All right, boys and girls. Well, I really appreciate everybody sticking. If you made it this long into the episode, then I think you're in for a treat because you're really probably in for more of the same as time unfolds. This has been Cast Against Type.
The next episode might not be true to the format we've just laid out here. We're going to unleash a top 10 of the year on you. Please reach out to us at castagainsttype@gmail.com, castagainsttype at Instagram, and
TikTok.
a site I never imagined we'd have a footprint on, but you got to change with the times, I guess. And in the meantime, remember, November exists. Until next time.